Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Masha Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back. On today's episode, Michelle and I are excited to be speaking with principal UX designer Premika PoSaw about her work in user testing and how she uses the tool Dovetail. Welcome, Premika. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. So happy to be on the show with both of you.
Thank you for coming. And hi, Matt. Hi, Premika. And welcome all the way from Singapore, where I believe now is tomorrow, actually.
Yes.
For us.
Yes.
These time zones always keep me like, wow, someone is living in tomorrow.
Yep.
So thank you again for coming to the show. You mentioned to me that we kind of met in passing in the UXDX show. So I'm really glad that we connected and you came here to talk about Dovetail. And you also helped me understand a bit more about Dovetail, and you will hear also from some of our other guests on this specific series that I didn't know a lot before we started this series about what this environment of user testing products are. I use some of them very scarcely as a product manager, and I didn't have UX researchers or designers to really push the need for it. So that's why I'm learning a lot. So that's awesome. So first of all, before we start, tell us who you are. Who's Premika?
How much time do you have?
We can do 2 episodes if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep it short. So basically, I'm the principal UX designer at an agency called GovTech. And GovTech is actually a stat board in Singapore, and they're the execution arm for all the digital products handled by the government.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. And how do you get to that, to be a principal UX designer?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Okay, let me try and give you a short answer. It's interesting. My background is actually advertising. And I pivoted from advertising. I did a master's in digital media. And around 2015, I got into enterprise UX, started my own agency, and 3 or 4 years later had the opportunity to join GovTech. So I joined as lead designer, and a couple of years later, I became principal UX
Interesting.
designer.
And this is for the Singapore government? This is what those development is, or for any government products?
No, it's specifically for the Singapore government.
I see. Okay. I know how the Canadian UX products are because I have to use them for different things. So I wonder if other countries, they're designed better. I'm always like, oh, this makes sense, but this doesn't really make any sense. So I always kind of scrutinize every product I use, of course. Cool. So that's a great place to be. So today we're talking about Dovetail, and when we chatted, you told me you're very keen about Dovetail. You love that product. Tell us a bit about it. What is Dovetail, and then we can dive into some details for our audience.
Sure. So Dovetail as a product positions itself as a customer insights hub. So they do a couple of things. You can use it as a user research platform. You can use it as to do analysis and synthesis. It does qualitative analysis, qualitative research transcription. The main way that we use the product is as a research repository. So we always used to struggle earlier because we used to have to store our audio and video files and transcripts in one place, do the synthesis in another place, and do the sharing in a third place. So this really solves a lot of problems for us. So we use it to do repository, analysis and synthesis, and the transcription in the same place. However, it still doesn't do, so we need to still use 2 tools. We use Zoom for the video recordings, and we use Dovetail. So it serves us very well in that space.
So it still needs video.
Still needs video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is interesting. When we talked with our previous guest, Kevin Hawkins, we talked with him about several products, but he also organized in our head some of the breakdown of what these products might have in them. So it starts with panels, the ability to find panels or to bring your own panels of people to test with. Then it goes to moderated and unmoderated type of tests. Then conducting the test, storing and analysis of the test, and the repository. So you mentioned some of these, and I would like maybe to go over this list in that order because we find it very useful when we did it for the other product. So if we're talking about panels, like how do you bring the people that are doing your test? Does Dovetail provide that, or do you have to source them and bring them over?
So the thing is, because it's the Singapore government, and we have a lot of our work is confidential and has security surrounding it. So I specifically am seconded with the Ministry of Manpower. So we have a high level of security. So the panels that we have, so the observers that we have and the people that we interview is closed. So Dovetail can't help us with that. We do that on a separate video platform. And we don't have help. Yeah, so it's not open to the public.
Oh, I see.
That's one area that Dovetail can't help us. Yeah.
I see. Okay. And then but you mentioned to me before, you still do moderated tests. So those moderated tests are done through Dovetail, or they're done externally and then you store them in Dovetail?
Yeah, done externally and stored in Dovetail. We use it mainly as a research repository. The most value we get out of it is that we can keep everything in the same place.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. So do you know if Dovetail has functionalities for that? If you were not government and you were like, private sector, B2C or whatever, do you know if they have this type of functionality?
To get you users? As far as I know, I don't think they do.
Okay. So they don't deal with panels or anything like that. But if you bring your own people, then can you conduct the test, those moderated tests on their system, or you still have to do it outside?
Still do it outside. So we use a combination of Zoom and Dovetail.
I see. So can you explain to us how it's done? Like, what do you do in Zoom, and then what do you do in Dovetail?
Okay, so basically we do a lot of qualitative research. Talk to our users a lot to find out their pain points for qual research, what we call discovery research. We also do usability testing. We do both. So we do that on Zoom, and we have a structured way of conducting those tests, starting off with non-disclosure agreements and privacy policies. We do allow maybe 3 observers because the Ministry of Manpower is a very large organization, and we do include what we call the work pass division officers to come and observe and learn about the users as well. So we can have 3 observers. We usually have 2 facilitators. So one person who's asking the questions and the other person who's taking notes. And it's usually about 1 hour, and we record the session. That's all that's done in Zoom. Then we can upload the video, etc., onto Dovetail. Then what Dovetail does for us is it does the video transcripts, which really helps us out a lot. A little bit of a gap there. So that's one of the gaps in Dovetail. The transcription that it does is not as powerful as it could be. Now, the thing is that it's not, let's say, an Asian product. So maybe it has a little bit of difficulty with some of the accents. It does have a tool where you can input some, let's say, technical terms or jargon so that it gets used to those terms. It does have that. But there is a little bit of an issue with accents, I would say.
I see. So the gap is to fully understand what people are saying because of the accent, or to...
Yes, it doesn't transcript accurately. I would say it's like 70% accurate. So that's still a lot of manual work to go back to the transcript, listen to what people are saying, and correct the transcript. I
see. Okay, cool. So after the transcription, what happens with that information?
We get really excited.
That's good.
So we have all this information. We usually do, let's say, 7 interviews. And then we can do the analysis and the synthesis. So we get the transcripts done. Then again, okay, so recently they released a couple of AI tools. right? So it does AI summarization, which is a summarization of the interview. It does thematic clustering, and it does sentiment analysis. On paper and as an initial offering, it's very good. But when we actually use it, it's not as robust as it could be. So we still have to do it manually. They just released it. They're going to be, I'm sure they're going to work on it and make it more robust. So we still need to do what we call the synthesis. So we go through the transcripts. They have what is called tagging. So they have global tagging, which is very useful because you can select themes, common themes across different projects. We have a very large product. We have different projects. They do have common themes. And they have tags which are specific to the project, which you can put in. So you start tagging and highlighting quotes and areas of interest in the transcripts. And these are clustered into tags. The beauty of Dovetail is the stuff that you tag, it has the equivalent video snippet. It cuts the video where you've tagged it, so you can view both together. That is super useful. When you're presenting to stakeholders, when you're sharing insights, when you're sharing it with the larger team, let's say with the business analysts, there's ease of use in sharing.
So if I have the video on one hand and then the description, and you tag the text in the description, it will know to go back to the video and create a snippet of that?
Yeah, it shows you the snippets of the tags.
That sounds very, very cool. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Sounds like a huge opportunity to have video inside the product in some later stage. So maybe when we get to the question of asking, like, what would you improve about it, that might come up. So, but I am glad you brought up the topic of AI. When I was doing some research on it, I did see the AI is in beta, but they are rolling out stuff there to help identify patterns and stuff like that. So that's pretty exciting.
Yes.
You also mentioned clustering. So clustering, you mentioned, what was the term? Thematic clustering. So is this, what I'm envisioning in my head is those word maps where you have big words and small words, depends on how many times they appear or something like that. But it's probably not that, right?
I guess if you were very creative, you could find a link to that.
Okay.
But usually what happens with clustering is you're like, how many people said the same sort of thing? Or how many people are feeling the same sort of thing? Or how many people find joy in the same sort of thing? Or how many people find the same sort of thing painful? That's what we call clustering.
Oh, like segmentation, clustering analysis. Yep.
Yes. Yes. So, so they have something called smart arrange, and then they have AI clustering. So theoretically, it sounds amazing. But I think they need to do a little bit more of a deep dive into how they can make it a little bit more helpful. It's just been released. They need to make it a little bit more robust. So we still need to do that. It's not as though we just click on the clustering and we're like, our work is done.
The magic's there.
Magic's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that sounds very cool. So basically, it seems like the power of Dovetail is to really get all of this stuff that you're getting in the video and help you make sense of it, right?
Yes. And make sense of it very seamlessly, intuitively. It's easy to use. The tag with the video snippet is super useful. So it has a lot that it can improve, but it's a very, very useful product for us. It's saved us from using 3 different types of software and brought us down to 2. I mean, 2 still sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's just the video element we do separately.
That's actually interesting. What did you use before that you chose Dovetail to replace with?
Okay, so we used something called Look Back. So Look Back, we used to use we could do the videos in Look Back, but we still had to do the synthesis, the analysis, and the reports in a separate software.
I see. Okay, so and in Look Back, you could do the video recording or not?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So that was more on the video recording part of things, but then you couldn't do the analysis.
Not so easy to. Yeah, so not so easy also as a research repository, Look Back. So what happens with Dovetail is that it's cloud-based. So we don't really have an issue with storage. Very easy to access, easy to give other people access to it. You can share the link. It's just, it's a much better product.
Yeah, so it's a SaaS product and you can access it probably from anywhere. and get to the storage and etc. Cool. You also mentioned that you're doing also quantitative research. So is there any connection to Dovetail of any of the quantitative data that you are getting?
The quant?
Yes.
So you can do unmoderated testing. You can do some unmoderated testing. I haven't really explored Dovetail for unmoderated because we are exploring another product called Maze. So Maze has a lot of additional functionality like heat maps and
Which
stuff
one
like
again?
that, which we are
Maze.
Maze.
That's one.
Maze.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the
that.
products Kevin was talking about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll go and check out that podcast because we're just about to explore Maze ourselves because we have a lot of robust qualitative research and we want to supplement it with a robust quant research moving forward.
I see. So, but so why you're not exploring that in Dovetail?
It doesn't have as many features or functions as Maze. Maze is a known quant research tool. You a lot of resources and functions.
Okay, but then would you be able to bring, because Dovetail does have the repository, which I believe Maze and the other products we talked with Kevin don't, and it also have all the analysis you have for the qualitative research. So do you know if you will be able to bring into Dovetail this information after you do the quantitative one and bring it into the same repository so it can analyze everything in one place?
Okay, so quant research is metrics. Qual research is a lot of analysis and synthesis. So it's a different sort of result.
I see.
But can we use it as a research repository, like a joint research repository? Absolutely. Import a lot of stuff into Dovetail. Yeah, that's the beauty. You can use it to keep everything in one place, even if it's stuff from another product.
So my question and your answer just showed how ignorant I am about this type of well, I don't know if ignorant is the right word because I've done a lot of this type of research, but not as near as someone like you or any other UX researchers out there. So I know the difference between quantitative and qualitative, and I know this one is more about words that people are saying and how do you synthesize this information versus matrices and stuff like that. For some reason, when I asked the question in my head, even these two can somehow connect at the end to one big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's different data points. So the thing is that you're trying to get your goal, and you have to look at different data points. So all research should lead you to the same place.
Right.
It's just in a different way. They show you different facets and perspectives. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So describe to us a bit that repository inside Dovetail. How does it look like and how does it help the team really work together?
Okay. So the pros of the repository are you can drag easily, quickly, drag and drop audio, video, transcripts, PDFs, Google Docs, anything, easy. The cons are that when you want to share it, you need to, the person that you're sharing it with, you can send them a link, but the person needs to have an account. So that's one thing that is a little bit of a, you're sending it to stakeholders, you're sending it to the larger team. They have one extra step, which adds friction in the experience of looking at research, where they have to log in, they have to create an account. Yeah, if they could get that out of the way, I don't know how, because most software you have to log in. I mean, even Google Docs, you need to give the user access by giving them the email. But that is a little bit of a pain point. Also, the report, you can use it as a repository. It does auto-generate a report, but it's not as powerful as, for example, even using something as simple as PowerPoint. So they could improve that as well. It's easy to use. It's intuitive. They give you a lot of support in tutorials on the website. There's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of content to help you learn.
I see.
How easy it is to retrieve information from that repository. Like, I think Michelle and I talked in the past about, you get all this stuff into the repository, but then to go find out like, hey, have we done this before? And to work with the product team and work with other designers. Like, is it easy to get to that internally to drudge up that kind of information?
That's a very good question. So you have to be a little bit disciplined in the way that you structure the repository. You have to have a common language and a common taxonomy within, certainly within the UX team. It's easy for people to find. They have a search, so you can look for it, and we are familiar with the terms. But if you give access to the larger team, they need to know what to look for. Mm-hmm. It's not that intuitive that it'll be able to find stuff without you really knowing what to look for. You have to be a little bit structured in that way.
It might be a common issue with any repository, because like it's as good as the data that you put in it, I guess.
Yeah. Still needs a lot of human intervention, I would say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah. AI is not going to take over the world yet.
Not
yet.
Got
a way to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the hot trend right now. So that's why every product out there now has some AI. But yeah, it will take time to really create value. But it is really interesting because, I'm thinking about all these different points of data that I got in the different products where I worked. Feedbacks from users, feedback from internal, feedback from support. So a lot of this quantitative information, either from interviews or surveys, with open-ended questions, or qualitative data, etc. But then and also, product analytics data, how people are using the system. Which is actually interesting to hear if that also can go into the repository, so everything is in one place, right? But in general, I never had a repository like that. I knew that they exist, but I never invested in creating one or in putting one. And I know that to look for different information, I had to look in different places, or I had to create my pseudo repository like in a Google Drive or something like that. Mm-hmm. So does Dovetail really get all these points of information from everywhere, or is it just based on whatever you put in it? So is it as good as the data that you put in it?
I would say it's as good as the data that you put in it, and you have to have you certainly have to have a common team structure and a way of searching and a common language and taxonomy. Yeah, Dovetail doesn't do that work for you.
Yeah. So like data from the product itself, like product analytics, or comments that you got from a roadmap tool, would this information go into Dovetail? Would you have access to that?
Well, we do, because we just use it as the only single source of truth. So anything that we've done, we put it into Dovetail. It's the single place that you go to look for previous research that you're planning to do. Global tagging, we look a lot at the global tagging because that provides common themes for us across the product. A product is very large. And then the project tagging, sometimes you find that the project tags overlap as well. So if you're let's say a business analyst and you want to see, I'm building a new module, it has some of the same kind of features as the module we built previously. Let me go and look at the user research and see what there is in the past. Can I apply the same insights to my new product coming up? Mm-hmm. They can do that. They can do a search for that, pull up the global tags and get. So as a research repository, it's not just, it's easy to store everything in one place. It does give you some of that robustness as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really important in a tool like that. So is it just the UX people that are using it, or also the product managers and other people in the organization?
So in my organization, my organization is more than 3,500 people. So I can only speak about the UX teams at where I am in the Ministry of Manpower.
Sure.
All of us are using Dovetail at the moment. So there are about like 18 or 19 UXTs. And we all use Dovetail at the moment because we find that it helps lighten our load in many ways.
No, absolutely. I can imagine that. Absolutely.
Since this sounds like a insights engine, what maybe are some of the key insights that it helps you find from Dovetail?
Okay, so Dovetail is a qualitative research tool, right? So so what happens is that, let's say, for example, you do user research, and then you have to do the synthesis and analysis of the research, which is basically interviews, listening to how people feel, what they do, what their pain points are, etc. There's still a lot of manual work involved in that. Like Dovetail says that they do clustering and summarization and sentiment analysis, which they do at a superficial level.
Okay.
But you still need the human beings with the sensibility to understand the research to actually do the synthesis.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no tool yet which can take that over from human beings. I haven't come across. I mean, if I found a tool like that, I'd be very happy to hear about it.
Okay.
And let us know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be very interested as well. Awesome. So we usually ask our guests also, the 3 top features that you really like the product, and the 3 less liked features. I think you already mentioned a few of the things that you would like to improve, and I hope someone from Dovetail is listening so they can hear you, as another qualitative data entry for their research. But tell us, what are the 3 things that you most like about Dovetail? Okay, so the top three things about Dovetail, I would say that it's intuitive. Okay, no, this is one. This is my first one, but it's got 4 adjectives in it, so it's still counted as one. So, it's intuitive, it's easy to use, it's cloud-based, and it's integrated. There are a lot of products that you can integrate into it, like Slack, Notion, stuff like that. The second thing is that we use it as a UX research repository, almost as a single source of truth. Anything you want to find out about what we've done, what we're going to do, go there. One place. And then the third thing I would say is that we can do the analysis and synthesis very easily on Dovetail without going to an external tool. So those are the top 3 things which really help us. I think what they need to improve is there are a lot of small things that they could do better, like the transcription. I feel they could do better. They could do their AI, make the AI tools more robust. So the thematic clustering and the sentiment analysis, etc., is not as robust as it should be. And if they could remove that pain point for external users to come in without logging in or having to create an account, that might be impossible, but it would be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you transcribing from different languages is a very tough problem to solve. I have a funny story where recently I was on a meeting with, I'm in Toronto, and I was in a meeting with French Canadians, and they were all speaking French. And we were saying, okay, maybe we should try the translation on Google Meet. So Google transcribed it first from French to French, and then it translated from French to English. But because of the Quebecois French, which has a very distinct accent, and maybe it's more than accent, I don't understand it, but maybe it's also like very different from regular French. Half of what they were saying, it translated in a very weird way. So it is definitely, even Google didn't figure it out yet. So it is definitely something that is improving as time goes by, but it's still an issue.
One of the questions we like to ask is your relationship with Dovetail, the company. Have you had to reach out to them in terms of implementation, customer support? Is there any kind of feedback you have that you'd like to relay?
I would say we have a long distance remote working relationship with Dovetail. Well, happily, we've never had any issues. So we've never really had to reach out for product support. They do have a newsletter which they send out regularly, which is quite useful because then they share with us the latest product releases, and they have a lot of content, which is super useful. But other than that, we have very low contact.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, that sounds good. Were you, by the way, part of the team that chose them?
Yes, we did it because we were looking at a number of different products. We were struggling with look back. So we kind of use their free trial and then made a decision as a team to go ahead and implement.
Nice. Cool.
Kind of looking and exploring the market right now, because you mentioned Maze as possible other solutions that might go along with Dovetail, but so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring.
Very good.
So where can people reach out to you?
So I'm easily available on LinkedIn under
Mhm.
Premika PoSaw. And I'm quite regular on LinkedIn, so happy to connect with anybody who's interested.
Perfect. So we always mention, everyone has LinkedIn these days, so we always mention LinkedIn on the description of the episode. Thank you so much, Premika, for joining us. We are going to bed now, and you are starting the day.
Yes.
Starting my day. No problem. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Mache. Thank you to all the listeners, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.